I would like to call to order the Charter Township of Chesterfield Regular Township Board meeting for Tuesday, September 24th, 2024 at 7 p.m. to order. Could we all stand, please face the flag and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Berry, could you call the roll? And please excuse Treasurer Elliott. She is at a training seminar.
Supervisor Kersten.
Here.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Joseph.
Here.
Trustee DeMink.
Here.
Trustee Vosberg.
Here.
Clerk Berry is here.
Item 4, approval of agendas. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Vosberg. Any discussion? Clerk Berry?
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph. Aye. Trustee DeMink.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye. Item 5, presentations. We have none scheduled tonight. Item 6, department reports. There are department reports tonight. Trustee Anderson.
Thank you, sir. We have Mr. Sonneberg is going to address a couple of construction things here with accompanying with some slides, both on the police headquarters and this building here. Mr. Sonneberg.
Josh, you want to address? You want to cover everything while you're up there?
Good evening. I just wanted to give the board an update with our two big projects, the police station and the main office renovation. I have about 8 slides that I'm going to run through, kind of give everybody an update in regards to the police station. We'll start with that. This first slide that you see shows the exterior of the building when we started the project. The SkyTrack you see is actually starting to grout the cells. We had a conversation back in December when I showed everybody that we had a structural concern with the building. A building of this size should have the cement cores filled with concrete. We'll go back into a little bit more detail, but that's what they're doing in this photo, and that's kind of the condition when we started the project. So this next slide, talking about those grouted cells, typically in a building like this, you'll have the concrete cores every 4 feet are filled with concrete and a piece of rebar. Our building, unfortunately, didn't have that when we started to do our structural analysis, so we had to go through and do that. You'll see that photo that's in the lower right. What that'll show you is when you do a thermographic scan of a building, if those cells are grouted, they show up highlighted. You'll see the green arrow that shows where that cell wasn't completely grouted. So when we went through, when we started this project, you'll see in the top right photo and the 2 left photos where the preconditions. That top right photo shows you a picture that I took with our thermographic camera before we started to grout the cells, and you'll see on the lower picture after, you can see all those highlighted yellow areas. That shows that that concrete went from top to bottom. It's a real important structural component of the building. So that first phase, out of really an 8-step process, is complete. Next, you'll see this is after we were done grouting the cells. We went through and we power washed to knock off all the loose paint, and then we applied a fluid membrane. You can also see the extra piece of steel that we added to the building to kind of stiffen up those inner steel wall columns that we talked about at the last meeting. So you can see on the far right that almost looks like salmon color. They're spraying, it's called a fluid membrane. It's almost like a rubber. It's made to make sure that that paint and anything after, once we start this process, kind of sticks and holds. I'll show you a better picture of that next. You can see here in this picture, that's when that membrane is fully applied. So we actually did a strength test and an adhere test where we took sections of that membrane once it was applied and did a pull test, and it's good. We'll have no issues with it. We did a really good job, DC Byers, putting that membrane on. And then you'll see the guy on the lift actually welding and fastening the steel to the outside. This next picture is the next step in this process. What we do is we add steel, almost like steel studs you'd see at Home Depot, but they're a little bit larger, and then we put 2-inch insulation on top of that fluid membrane. So that gives us, the steel gives us something to put the finished panels to, and the insulation obviously gives us a better R value in the building, because that was one of our concerns. When we're putting this together for a 25-year fix, so that's why we're doing all the proper steps. This next picture was taken today. So this is where we're at today. This is our building fully wrapped and ready for steel panels, which will start later this week. They'll start putting those steel panels on. The final steps we have is the steel skin that you'll see going up this week and going into next week. That'll take months to complete. And then we're also doing our windows, and we're relocating the DTE transformers because they're a little bit older, so we're going to go with a pad-mounted ground transformer. So that's where we're at in the process with the police department. It's going really well. Our only delay looking forward with our forecast is DTE. If we can get them to get the new transformers put up, we'll be on schedule. If not, that will be the one holdup. Other than that, we're on schedule and under budget. That's our final rendering, what it'll look like once the steel panels go on. We're going to stain the front portion of the brick, and the steel panels will modernize the building. Like I said, it should be good for 25 years. The next item is our renovation here. You can see in this picture, that is one of our 33-year-old rooftops. We had 2 of those removed on the building. They're huge. They're bigger than a full-size truck. You can see the gentleman standing on the building holding a rope. We were happy to see those go. They were running at about 50% capacity. That was really the driver for this remodel. You'll see here where that gentleman was standing on the roof. This was another issue we had in the reason for this renovation. This is a large section of our flat roof above all of our offices. That, again, is an original section. What you see is it's called a fully ballasted roof. They take a rubber membrane and they pour these rocks over the membrane, which at the time they thought was a good idea, but come to find out, the membrane, the rocks break down, they punch holes in the membrane. It's a bad system. So we went ahead, and part of this project was remove all those, which you can imagine the gentleman there, he has like a huge shop vac. One guy sweeps them into piles, and they suck them up across the whole roof. So it's quite the process. Here you'll see, showing the size of that first unit that was pulled off the roof. That black membrane is part of our new roofing system, but that's just temporary. That red line that you see there was to show you where the size of the old rooftop was that was removed. That yellow line is the size of the new rooftop, which will be put in its place. What we did as part of this project is instead of having 2 large rooftops, we put 6 smaller ones. You'll see those here coming up. Also, when we removed the rocks, ripped off the old membrane, we added some insulation before we put the new membrane on. You'll see that picture here. So obviously, with the rocks gone, if there's an issue on the roof, you can see it. It's clean. It's easy to keep up. Those are our new smaller rooftops. We put a small rooftop on every section of the building to be more efficient when we heat and cool those sections, depending on how the sun hits them and the temperatures change. This is a picture from when going back to the inside when we started this project. This was the interior of the building. You'll notice that there's that drywall section above on that band that wraps around the building. There's the HVAC ducts are in that thin little vents that you see. That's what was used to heat and cool that whole space. It took a ton of energy to heat and cool that large open space. It was massive. You'll also notice that below those vents, there's a metal wall that wraps around. You couldn't see the outside. We used to call it the Great Metal Wall. I mean, if you were in that office, you never even knew what was going on unless you looked across the hall into the boardroom. So what we did is, this is another thing I wanted to cover. Part of this process, when we first started here, we analyzed above the ceiling. Our conditions above the ceiling were awful. Wires, it was a mess. So we removed everything. You can kind of see where we were at, which was all part of the plan. And you'll notice how much brighter it is. Those windows around the outside were existing. So you can see in this picture how we started to frame the new walls, and you'll notice that all the HVAC ducts were removed, all the old VAVs, all the old wiring, all part of the plan to modernize. With our new offices, we put full windows in and full doors, which kind of opens up that so you can kind of see in and out. You'll also see where that black line is in the center of the picture. That's new ductwork that extends out, and we can control that space. We drop the ceiling in that area. It's still at 11'6", so it's still extremely high, but what we can do now is we have ductwork going across that area to control the heating and cooling better coming from those new units that we put in. This next slide we're kind of proud of too. This is just another interior shot, and I think you'll probably be glad to hear my last slide, but this shows the cable tray that we put in. Just as an example, going back to that first picture I showed where the cables were a mess, you'll see on the left, it's hard to see, but that blue line that goes through, we put a cable tray that goes from server room to server room, and every single cable, network cable, door cable, fire cable, all run in that highway from area to area, so it keeps it extremely clean and they're labeled. That picture on the right is I took that today, it's just getting above the ceiling, and you can see how that cable tray runs from area to area. So for future renovations and future use, it'll be a clean, highly functionable space. I think that's it. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Josh.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. Trustee Anderson, finished? You good? Trustee Fosberg?
Yeah, I just have one question. On either building, we have contractors doing the work? Are any of our employees doing any of the work?
We are managing the contractors. Braun at both projects is handling the majority of the work, and it's 99% contractors, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Joseph?
Thank you. Just a couple of quick updates. Our Township Library Board met on September 18th. They had a pretty full agenda. Probably the biggest and most significant was they went through very detailed accounting of their 2023 audit. They had, I don't know if Vicki Bauer's here, but she loves this kind of talk. It was an unqualified audit, which, as the auditor pointed out, there are three categories of findings: unqualified, qualified, and I think disclaimer was the third. But in audit speak, the library is on very sound financial footing in terms of the revenue to expenditures and their cash reserves. They also discussed their 2025 budget. The 30th anniversary of the library is coming up this year, and they have some events planned. They will be hosting a formal event that they call Once Upon a Time Gala that is coming up here in October. They have begun the final completion of their strategic plan, and they made some decisions with regard to the library director's contract. They are very happy with their new director and made some amendments to his contract, but it looks as though all things from the library standpoint are moving along quite well. They're investigating a bookmobile and trying to get a means of getting library books in the hands of our residents in a more mobile kind of way. So they're pursuing the costs associated with that, and all things seem to be going fairly well at the library. The other update that I'd like to give the board is from our Senior Advisory Board, which met on September 16th. Mr. Supervisor brought in Jeff White from Richmond Lennox EMS, and he spoke at length about all of the different services that his organization provides, and kind of broke down how his operation operates under the authority of SMART and the mechanism by which we fund a number of our senior trips through his bus services come to us in the form of credits that are returned back to the township as a result of the tax revenue that's generated. We did talk a lot about the senior ability to access some of these, but I think it's just important to point out that they do offer a number of services for the general population and township residents. I appreciated the relationship that he described with our township board, in particular supervisor, as it relates to the amount of money that our community puts into SMART versus what we get in the way of services. And it was pretty clear to everybody that was in attendance. Chesterfield is, by all accounts, a donor community. We put in far more than we get back. So we're working to address that. Specifically to senior-related activities. At the previous meeting in August, there was talk of a fundraising plan that had started some years ago, and that there had been a number of activities, and I see Treasurer Hartman here today, and I know that she knows because she was at a number of those bake sales and events that Carol Rose, our former senior director, put on, and there was a pot of money that was designated to hopefully someday having a more expanded senior center or maybe an autonomous structure dedicated to seniors. But one of the seniors brought up at our August meeting that they thought, last check, that there was somewhere in the neighborhood of $60,000 that had been generated toward that fund, and wondered what happened to it. Supervisor Kersten left that meeting, met with our finance director, Vicki Bauer, who came to the senior group and gave a full presentation about that money and the fact that, yes, there is a grand total of $61,221 that is earmarked for senior activities. So in the coming months, the senior committee will be working with Director Vanderson to look at ways to utilize those funds, and in a kind of a split way. One, to make the current community center senior portion more amenable to their needs, and also maybe to invest some back here at the township offices when they return after the construction is complete. I was most impressed, and Trustee DeMink, if you want to add on here, please do. As we reviewed some of the previous issues that were discussed, over the summer and now into the fall, the feedback from the senior committee was they were very happy at the responsivity. We no longer have rumors and gossip about what's happening or what isn't happening, and any issues that they have with the building have been addressed in a very quick way, and they were most appreciative. At our July meeting, there was discussion about having a township staff member from our Facilities and Operations Department be on site to assist them, and that involves some coordination with different departments, and we have a full-time person now at the senior center that can help turn over rooms. So if a yoga room is now needed for cards in another activity, we have the staff that can set up that room and accommodate the seniors so that we don't have our senior citizens trying to drag tables and chairs. We've been responsive with the limitations we have in terms of the air temperature in the building. It was extremely hot, and there was some renovations, modest, that didn't break the budget, to make the room more comfortable for them. And I think overall feedback was very positive, and the senior panel was very appreciative of the work that we've been doing over there. And I think it was a great decision to form the advisory board and to keep the communication open between the seniors and our board. And of course, they have a mechanism to do that independent of meetings. Ms. Vanderson has an excellent relationship with not only the panel members, but also just the seniors that come in to use that space. So they're becoming more acclimated there, and their needs are being met. And we're making the best of it during the building renovations. But overall, great reports from the Senior Advisory Board. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Clerk Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. A lot of updates for the board this week. First and foremost, we're very happy to announce that the $30,000 grant that I told all of you about at the last meeting, we did receive those funds. They were received yesterday. So a $30,000 check came in for our election operations. We are using most of that for our voter education program that we committed to with the state of Michigan, as well as filling in some holes we have in our personnel, coverage of personnel wages and costs. So that which is not covered by the state, that grant is going to help fill in some of those blanks. Also, we did receive absentee ballots in the office. Those ballots will be available to the public on Thursday, September the 26th. They can come in and receive their absentee ballot in our office. We are prepping those ballots right now to be mailed to those individuals who are on the permanent ballot list or who have requested an absentee ballot with the absentee ballot application. So expect those ballots to be mailed Thursday or Friday for those who have requested a ballot or expecting one. If you do not receive your absentee ballot by the end of next week, please call our office and we will track it for you. You can also track it yourself online on the Secretary of State's website. We do have a link to that, which is the Michigan Voter Information Center. You can put in your information. I think Trustee Vosberg and I talked about this at a previous meeting. You can see your sample ballot. You can see what is on that ballot. We also have samples of those ballots, and each precinct is different because they rotate the candidates in each of the races. So each precinct is a little bit different as far as the location of candidates on the ballot. But you can see your individual ballot by going onto the Secretary of State's website. We also have samples of all of those ballots in the clerk's office. On Thursday, we will be having our Election Commission meeting. That is the meeting where the Election Commission, consisted of myself, Trustee Vosberg, and Trustee Anderson, will be meeting at 10 o'clock here at the township offices. We will be appointing election inspectors and doing all of the business-related activities that are necessary to have us in compliance for this upcoming November general election. That is open to the public, and all are welcome to attend that meeting. Also, the new edition of the voter guide is now available, at least we have submitted it to our township website individual who updates our website. We have given them the file, and that should be available online starting tomorrow. We did print some hard copies for the board to have, just printed off of our printer. We will have some limited actual printed copies available in our office as well upon request. You can stop into the clerk's office and get one of those, probably beginning end of this week as well. A little delay on the printing just because of the massive amounts of printing that is going on here around the state given the upcoming election. But that information is available in digital format online, should be tomorrow on our website. Also, upcoming on Monday, we have an event that is taking place. It is completely free. We will be serving refreshments courtesy of one of our community partners. So there will be a lunch provided if you attend our Safe and Secure Elections event on Monday at the Community Center from 12 to 2. Our program starts at 12 o'clock. Prosecutor Lucido will be speaking, as well as County Clerk Anthony Ferlini, myself, and our local law enforcement partners will be there. The purpose of that meeting is to educate the public about what we are doing in the clerk's office and in law enforcement to make sure that our election is safe and secure. It will explain the steps that we go to, and we are also going to share with you some of the things that the public can do to protect the integrity of the election, to protect the integrity of their vote, and also to assure them that we are taking all steps and are prepared to provide a safe and secure election for this upcoming November. So it's going to be a very valuable event. It is not limited to residents of Chesterfield. Any member of the public is welcome to attend. However, we are asking everyone to register online. You can do that through our website. There's also a QR code on the postcard that all of our residents received this week. We are asking that you register because space is limited. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Item 7, public comments. Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you. Real brief, as the coordinator chair for the Streets, Sidewalk, and Pathway Committee, we had our second meeting on September 11, and we have 3 members of the community plus subject matter experts who are department heads here and engineering firm. We are in the process right now of just catching everyone up, learning the difference between sidewalk replacement, sidewalk gap program, and then how roads are funded, the various funding structures. So there will be probably at some point some recommendations being made to the supervisor and therefore to the board, but that will be a few months coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Apologies again. Item 7, public comments on agenda items only. There is a 3-minute time limit. If you would, please state your name for the record, just so we can keep track. It is not required. The mic is open. Public comments. Public comments.
John Speaker, Chesterfield Township. In regards to the bill run, most of you know that I'm a fiscal conservative hawk. And after I went through that bill run, I don't know how most of you could vote or even sleep at night. And I'm going to give you examples. Under the trustees for the Verizon Wireless, that bill has doubled to $306.56. Under the supervisor's office, I've asked, there was no name attached who went to the Anchor Bay Chamber. So I don't understand what theirs to hide there. I've asked several times, there should be a name attached to every expenditures. It's taxpayers' money. We all paid, everybody sitting in this room paid for that. Under Human Resources, I seen that there was a course given from unlawful harassment behavior. I think that was an excellent course based on what I've heard. You know, I think that was money well spent for $150.19. Under the Treasurer's Office, there was lodging for a conference at the Hyatt at $567.64 for 2 nights. Again, no name attached. Taxpayers' money was used for that. On top of that, you know, somebody went to Boyne Mountain for a conference, no name attached, at $308.25. Again, it's everybody's taxpayers' money. That's unacceptable, not having a name attached and knowing who went. Under the building department, it looks like we got into the leasing program here in Chesterfield Township. On an annual base, we've got a Ford F-150, a Ford F-150 at $1,030.69 monthly, a 22 Escape at $462.65, a 23 Escape at $681.70, another 2 Escapes at $598.96, and another vehicle at $661. So a total of $48,415.56 of taxpayers' money used to lease vehicles. If this township is in such great shape that a few of the elected officials claim we should be able to pay cash for these vehicles, this is a waste of money to lease these vehicles. The only ones making money, the residents are getting snowed. The only ones making the money are Enterprise. Under Parks and Recs, there's another vehicle for $878.51, and under Water and Sewer, there were 3 additional vehicles at $462.65, $878 for 2 F-150s, and $882.10. At this point, it's just unbelievable, the money that's getting wasted. And another department that's growing based on the actions of the majority of this board is our litigation. And if you tally the litigation, the only ones making money there, and it was a lot of money, $11,000 plus that went out for litigation. Thank you.
Any further comments from the public? Any further comments? Seeing no further comments, we'll move on to item 8, the consent agenda. Clerk Berry.
All items under the consent agenda are considered routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of these items. If discussion of any item is required by a board member, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of September 10th, 2024. B, approval of the payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Clerk Berry. Is any support? Supported by Trustee Vosberg. Discussion? Seeing none. Clerk Berry.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee DeMink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye. Item 9, public hearing. There are 2 public hearings scheduled tonight. I will make a motion to open the first public hearing. Clerk Berry, would you please read?
Item 9A is to conduct a public hearing on September 24th, 2024, to hear comments on an application for an Industrial Facilities Exemption Certificate, IFEC, for real property submitted by Gestamp Saint Clair LLC, located at 52153 Sierra Drive, Chesterfield Township, Michigan, 48051.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to open the public hearing. Is there any support? Support. Trustee Joseph. The public hearing is open at 7:29. Clerk Berry, call the roll.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph. Aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee DeMink. Aye. Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Public hearing is open. Mr. Johns, welcome.
Thank you, Board. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to say a few words about the Gestamp project that we worked on a few years. I'm Jack Johns. I work for Macomb County Planning and Economic Development at 1 South Main, Mount Clemens. So the Gestamp project we worked on is for an international group that specializes in design, development, and manufacture of metal automotive components and has a presence in more than 20 countries. They wanted to expand their operations in Michigan. We're very happy that after many discussions, they made the decision to build a brand new 450,000 square foot facility here in beautiful Chesterfield Township. The industrial facility tax application they submitted shows the real property investment in this project around $67 million. When you add in the costs that could not be included in the application, which included the land, service fees, personal property, the total investment into Chesterfield Township was approximately $149 million. So this was one of the second largest ones that we worked on in the last couple of years, and Niagara and Sterling Heights was the second largest. I also am including a tax impact study that the county did. It'll break down the taxes on the state of Michigan, county, and also Chesterfield Township. And the last thing I want to mention is their presence in the county will be extremely impactful, and we want to make sure their company succeeds, which in return adds to the flourishing economy in both Chesterfield Township and Macomb County as a whole. And there's also 2 representatives from Gestamp here as well.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome to speak.
Good evening. My name is Susana Tello. I run the Institutional Affairs Department and Communication Department of Gestamp in North America. And I thank you for the opportunity to thank you, Chesterfield Township and Macomb County with his Economic Development Director, Jack Jones, and his team, because we've been able to land this project here in this area after a long research to build our 4th facility in Michigan, here in Chesterfield. So thank you for that support, for the business-friendly environment that has been instrumental to land this decision here today. Just a few data for you to know and the public to know. Gestamp Chesterfield will become the 2nd largest manufacturing operation of Gestamp in Michigan. We've been here for 20 years already in the United States, and we will be the 2nd also in terms of employment. We're looking forward to start hiring those 390 employees, hopefully mostly local, or at least in the county, because we know this is where the very talented, skilled workforce for the automotive industry lives and breathes, and that was also a key factor for our decision to settle down in Macomb and in Chesterfield. Not much more than this. I'm open if you have any questions. We're really excited to get that new building up and running. It's already going up, as you can tell if you drive through, and fill it with that good talent. And we have state-of-the-art equipment for manufacturing metal stamping. What we build, what we manufacture is the body, the bones, the metal bones of the cars we all drive in North America, and we very proudly do that. And just let you with a word of, the kind of company we are. The presses we set up in the ground are really deep. So we root deep in the communities also, where we are lucky to settle down, and we hope we'll be able to contribute also to that bright future, business and employment wise of the people in Chesterfield. And well, we're looking forward to the ribbon cutting. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further comments from the public? Is there any comments from the public? I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Is there support? Second by Clerk Berry. Clerk Berry, call the roll.
Supervisor Kersten?
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
Trustee Joseph? Aye. Trustee Demink?
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed at 7:34. Item 9B, when you're ready.
Item 9B is to conduct a public hearing to confirm the special assessment role and to hear any objections thereto for the Salt River Drive Paving Special Assessment District.
Is there a motion to open public hearing?
Motion to open the public hearing.
Motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Vosberg. Clerk Berry?
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Vosberg? Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
Trustee Joseph? Aye. Trustee Demink? Supervisor Kersten?
Aye. Public hearing is open at 7:35. Mic is open, podium is open.
Hi, so I'm one of the residents on this street, and I object this project. Reason being is I don't think it's gonna increase my value as it should for what I'm gonna be asked to pay. So I just want it on record that I object. I already know that work's gonna begin pretty soon, but that's all.
I'm Howard Herring, and I live at 48735 Salt River at Point Lakeview Junction, and I believe this road needs to be repaved. It's been over 25 years, and there's more potholes in it, and after the gas company got through, they messed the road up more. So I'm for this project.
Any further comments? Any more comments from the public? Seeing none, Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there support? Trustee Anderson? Clerk Barrett?
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink. Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Clerk Barry, aye.
Public hearing is closed at 7:36. Item 10 on the regular agenda.
Item 10A is to consider an application for an Industrial Facilities Exemption Certificate, IFEC, submitted by Gestamp Saint Clair LLC, located at 52153 Sierra Drive, Chesterfield Township, Michigan, 48051. Approval of an abatement agreement, determine the period of years of the abatement, and adopt resolution number 2024-20.
Motion by Trustee Joseph, supported by Supervisor Kersten. Ms. Paving, you want to address this issue and just kind of cover it?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This abatement, I was asked to provide the board with criteria for the number of years for the abatement, which the maximum of years is 12 years. The criteria is based on the use, the investment, and the employment of the development. And what I provided in the memo to the board is that they had 2 years for manufacturing. I would also consider warehousing for 1 year. We have the maximum for investment in real property, which is 5 years, and the full-time employees of 100 or more, which is 4 years, which is a total of 12 years for the maximum, is what we would recommend. I have also provided to the board the tax difference for the 12 years. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Questions from the board? Trustee Joseph?
Mr. Supervisor, with the comments by our assessor, I'd like to amend the motion to reflect that the resolution include a 12-year abatement.
I'll continue to support that. Any questions for Treasury or Clerk, Assessing? Any questions? So there's a motion by Trustee Joseph, supported by Supervisor Kersten, to approve the resolution to the maximum resolution with the maximum years allowed of 12 years. And execute the abatement agreement as drafted. Any further discussion? Clerk Barry?
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Demink. Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Clerk Barry, aye.
Thank you. Welcome, Gestamp. Item 10B.
Item 10B is to adopt Resolution Number 5, 2024-19 for the Salt River Drive Paving Special Assessment District, confirming the special assessment role and providing for collection in annual installments for a 10-year period. To also determine the interest rate to be applied to unpaid installments at a rate to be determined by the board not to exceed 8% per annum.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve. Pardon me? Oh, yes. With the
The statute allows the township board to set an interest rate in an amount not to exceed 8%. It has nothing to do with the prime rate or any other rate. The board has the absolute discretion to set it between 0 and 8%.
I misspoke. It was based on what we've done in the past, it was 5%. So with a 5% interest rate. Again, 10-year period at 5%. Any discussion? Is there any support for that motion?
I'll support it.
Supported by trustee Vosberg. Any discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Berry.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph. Trustee Demink. Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 10C.
Item 10C is to set a public hearing for October 22nd, 2024, on objections to the cost of the operation and maintenance of detention basins, approval of the special assessment roll, and spread of the assessment roll for each of the following assessment districts. 1, Ruby Subdivision. 2, Sugarbush Estates Division. 3, Brycewood Subdivision. 4, Stonehenge Subdivision. 5, Winchester Donner Subdivision. 6, Anchor Point Subdivision. 7, Industrial Park 22 Subdivision.
Motion by trustee Demink, supported by trustee Anderson. Any discussion? No discussion? I have a motion by trustee Demink, supported by trustee Anderson to approve item 10C. Clerk Berry.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph. Trustee Vosberg. Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 10D.
Item 10D is to adopt proclamation number 2024-05 to recognize October 6th through the 12th, 2024 as National Fire Prevention Week.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to adopt the proclamation.
Support.
Supported by trustee Vosberg. Clerk Berry, do you want to read the proclamation? Or
Yes.
Clerk Berry.
On behalf of the people of the Charter Township of Chesterfield, Macomb County, State of Michigan, the Chesterfield Township Board of Trustees does hereby proclaim October 6th through the 12th, 2024 as National Fire Prevention Week. Whereas National Fire Prevention Week is observed in the United States and Canada during the week from Sunday to Saturday, in which November 9th falls, commemorating the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. In 1920, the first National Fire Prevention Day proclamation was issued by President Woodrow Wilson to mark the anniversary of the Great Chicago Fire of 1871 and keep the public informed about the importance of fire prevention. President Calvin Coolidge proclaimed the first National Fire Prevention Week on October 4th through 10th, 1925, noting that in the previous year, some 15,000 lives were lost due to fire in the United States. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire, the citizens of Chesterfield Township should be sure everyone in their home understands the sounds of the alarms and knows how to respond. And residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties and responsibilities of their fire department, and that members of our fire department are committed to ensuring the safety and security of all citizens in Chesterfield Township, and recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property. Now therefore, the Chesterfield Township Board of Trustees do hereby proclaim October 6th through the 12th, 2024 as National Fire Prevention Week in Michigan.
Discussion from the board? Thank you, Clerk Berry. Seeing none. I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Trustee Vosberg, to approve the proclamation. Clerk Berry?
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph. Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 10E.
Item 10E is to approve a recommendation to award the Township Hall Pathway Ditching Project to the lowest responsible bidder, Raska Contracting, in the amount of $49,050, and to approve the total project cost in the amount of $60,000.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve. Is there any support?
Support.
Support by Trustee Vosberg. Mitch, do you want to address this?
Good evening. About a month ago, we recapped the pathway and also set the culverts, the cross culverts, about 2 feet lower. This project would ditch the culverts from culvert to culvert to kind of finish the project. We didn't include it with the paving project because it's not a paving project, it's a ditching project, so that's why we rebid this separately.
Questions from the board? Trustee Anderson?
Yeah, I just want to, it's about the third iteration on this, this project going on to when it was first installed. Comes back every so often, things have to be done to correct it. It's no reflection on this board, but I'm looking when it was originally planned, perhaps it was a different time. Things like water mitigation, things like that were not addressed at that time. I would hope moving forward that with the in-house engineer, Mr. O'Connor, and all our H&R people, that when these projects come up moving forward, no reflection on the past here, but moving forward, that all these minute issues that might run into thousands and thousands of dollars could be addressed prior to before they're bid out to like an engineering firm. Just an observation. I'll support this because I don't want to see any damage happen to what's been installed so far. Thank you.
Further questions? Further questions? I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Trustee Vosberg, to approve item 10E. Clerk Berry?
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 10F.
Item 10F is to approve a recommendation to award RFP 2024-FO-88 for 2024-27 Commercial Snow Services, a 3-season contract to Ultimate Lawn Services in an amount not to exceed $169,254.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion. Is there any support?
Second.
Clerk Berry? Mr. Sonnenberg, floor is yours.
Good evening again. This was a pretty detailed package. I know we've had a lot of questions about this in the past. Obviously, when we started here, it's a new service that is set up through a contractor. Typically, when I started, we would do this in-house, but there's so much. There's a lot of detail. I want to thank our staff for putting this package together. They do a great job every time it goes out. So I want to kind of really quick go through the pages so the public can see how much detail goes into these type of packages that we're putting together when we put services out to bid. So there's about 14 pages in this package, all provided to the board. I'll kind of go through in quick detail and then take any questions, just so the public can see when we put this out. So this first page kind of summarizes what areas were included in this package and what weren't. So you can see the list to the left kind of shows you the sites that were included, and the list to the right shows you the sites that we do not include. So this next slide shows what services were included in this contract and how they break down. We do an unusual thing, which is great for us. It's beneficial for the residents, really, is this contractor works with us, these contractors work with us really well. Typically, when you get a snow contract, you sign a contract for a year-long service, and you either pay up front or you pay per push. What we have here is kind of a hybrid approach where our staff will do it during the day, during normal business hours, and a little bit of overtime when they're here, but on holidays, nights, and weekends, the contractor picks up all these areas. So that's included in the verbiage of this contract. And this kind of shows you what those include. So we avoid a lot of overtime, cost, and a lot of risk. Really, when you're pushing snow in the middle of the night and you've got staff on the road, it's one of the riskier things we do. So we're happy to have a partnership with the contractor. These next couple pages break it down area by area, service by service. You can see we got multiple vendors. You'll see across the top each vendor and the cost per service, per area. A lot of detail. There's several pages that go site by site. So you'll see the municipal office and Fire Station 1, for example. These next areas, you can see the pump stations, the community center, and the police department. This was all included in your package, like I said, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time going price by price. I just want to show the public how, when we break it up, how detailed it is. So these are going through the pages. When you come to the end here, you'll see the last page is kind of the summary for each one of the vendors. You can compare. You can see their names across the top, prices across the bottom. You can see we had 2 bidders, around $14,000. Patriot Landscaping and Ultimate Services were pretty close to each other. Ultimate being our current vendor. The next page shows, these are some additional areas that we weren't in our contract last year, or last 3 years, but are in our contract this year. It's hard to see here, but what this is, there's a Jefferson path that runs from Brandenburg to Weber Splash Pad. This stretch of path gets heavy use, so we try to keep it salted and clear. It's our responsibility, so this, for the next 3 years, we're putting that into the contractor's scope to help us out with that, to make sure it stays clear and safe. This next pathway network that we're doing with the contractor, it's hard to see, but this is our municipal office, and there's a lot of red lines there. There's quite a bit of pathways that zigzag, and obviously they're new pathways. We got a lot of traffic on those, so we want to keep those clear. These next pages show how detailed the maps are we provided in this package. Each site has a map showing exactly the area that the contractor will be responsible for. The municipal office, you can see here in our new facility, the community center is to the right. This is Fire Station 1, Fire Station 3, and then you have the police department and Bay Harbor Pump Station and the DPW office. This page shows you in a comparison to what our snow contract was for the previous season. Sorry, I want to pull this out so I can see it. My eyes are bad. I can't see this. This is the 21 to 23 cost. It was about $68,000 when we did the 3-year period then. Obviously, each site was a little bit cheaper, and like I said before, we had less sites. So if you go forward to today, our new contract price goes up to, wait, let me step back for 1 second. I apologize. I want to go back to that last slide. I just want to mention on that last line below, although the cost of the contract was, proposed contract was $68,000, or $85,000, I'm sorry, our contract was $85,000, we spent $68,000. So we were under budget about $21,000. Now, as you know with snow, this could change. I mean, we could get a lot of snow and that number could go up and down, but we're happy to see when we did the forecast that we were under budget by $21,000. So I just wanted to touch on that before we get into the next one. I apologize about how I misspoke about the numbers there. So going back to our old contract, 3-year contract was $85,000. Moving forward, our new contract is $169,000. And the biggest reason for those the costs are the municipal pathways, which comes in at $40,000, and the community center, which is $25,000. Now, obviously, that's for us, that would be our worst case scenario. We're hoping that, I mean, we all love a little bit of snow, but not too much, so we can keep these numbers down. But we have to plan for the worst, and I just wanted to show you the detail that went in this package. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I apologize about rushing through. It's just a lot of information.
Questions from the board? Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, Josh, I appreciate the comprehensiveness of the packet and the chart that kind of does the comparative analysis between the different bidders, and then, you know, the board packet includes the entire packet from each of the, you know, contracts. And so it's very detailed, but the one thing that I would like to see, and I'd like to see it when we're doing the opposite, and what I mean by that is sometimes that you will come forward and you will make a presentation that our in-house staff and our in-house equipment can do a particular task better than or cheaper than and more bang for our buck, you know, doing it in-house. When those presentations come forward in the same way that this presentation comes forward, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars now on BS&A software, and one of the selling points of that was anytime one of your staff or you are involved in a project, the BSNA software allows us to sort of plug in all of the operational needs, the equipment, the vehicles, the gas, the tools, the materials. They all go in, and we can get a very good snapshot of what our costs are. You know, you front load the labor and the benefits and, you know, all of that. And we could get a very detailed analysis of what our true comparison is between, you know, doing something in-house and contracting out. So when you bring a proposal forward, in this case, you're bringing the proposal forward to say, we normally do a lot of these services, but we're contracting it out, and this is the way that we're doing it and why that we're doing it, and I appreciate that. But the one thing that's lacking is we invested. It wasn't too long ago that we had a presentation about salt spreaders and plows and vehicles and equipment to handle snow removal, and obviously we can't do it all and have the township ready to receive residents when we get a big snowfall. But what happens to the equipment and the materials that are purchased to handle these things that are now being contracted out? Because it doesn't show up in the comparative analysis. So we never see the cost of in-house versus contracting out either way. So we either get, this is why we should contract it out, but no indication of what it costs to do in-house, or we're going to do it in-house because we can save money, and we still don't have what was hopefully a very comprehensive and easy to understand, because we paid for it in the BSNA software. I'm just wondering why doesn't the BSNA software analysis show up in these contracted versus in-house projects?
Great question. Our team does a fantastic job capturing labor. I mean, at any time, any moment, our work order system, every item is tracked in our work order system. Time and material, labor, equipment. There's no excuse. I mean, there's a punch of a button, I can get it done for you. So I could provide that. I also could provide, I mean, if we're looking at drilling down details, the other thing I would like to see is a comparable to say, if we subbed this out 100% and didn't do the hybrid approach, what would the cost be? Those are analysis we can give you. What we try to do is focus on, you know, what we're looking at, but I understand the optics of it, and we'll be happy to provide additional information. It makes complete sense.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Vosberg.
I have a question on the two long sidewalks, the Jefferson and the Sugar Bush. Sorry I didn't ask this earlier, so if you're not prepared, you can get it to me later, but I thought that sidewalks generally are the responsibility of the property owner adjacent to it.
Since I've been here, we have, well, before I was here, our staff always took care of that, because it's the one thing that we've always done since it was, in my understanding, that it was installed, and we get so much traffic on it, and it's a 10-foot to 12-foot wide pathway. So although some of the neighbors do it, not all of them do. So the problem you have is when you get somebody walking through that area, it's ice, then plowed, then ice, then plowed. I would be happy to explore that option. I just know from a safety standpoint, we were asked to do it, we do it.
And in front of Sugar Bush, same thing?
Yeah, just like you'll see, to your point, township property, like when you look at our map for the fire station, all the sidewalks on 23 Mile Road and then on Baker, they're on our property. We plow them with our contractor, so, or our staff. But to your point, yes, that could be something we could consider in the future.
Okay, but for general public safety, we've just taken it upon ourselves to make sure it gets done.
We have, because
All right,
we've had so many complaints on that, so we just try to keep it clear, because a lot of people like to walk that in the winter.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further comments? Clerk Beard?
Thank you. Josh, you kind of just mentioned it a minute ago, but I was going to ask, just for clarification for the public, all of those areas that were not included, or that are not included in this contract, the parks and all of the other ones, who plows and maintains those during the winter?
So for example, some of those parks are seasonal parks, like Weber. I'm sure a lot of the residents know we kind of close that park down because we don't get a lot of traffic. Pollard, same thing, we close it. Brandenburg's on that list as well, although the supervisor is doing a really good job trying to extend that park into the winter. So over the next couple of years, we might be plowing that. But for now, Brandenburg, for example, there's so much parking lot there. For the few visitors that use it, we plow a fire lane loop or a loop down to the boat launch and back. but we don't plow that whole entire parking lot, just because it's not worth keeping it clear and dumping that much salt on there for the few people that use it. The other one we don't do is the small, down at the end of Community Center Drive, there's a dirt parking lot. We don't plow that as well because, once again, it's a seasonal park. So those are the areas that we really stay away from, just the seasonal stuff. If they become heavy use, then we could include those in the future.
But if it becomes necessary and to have those emergency lanes plowed, we take care of that, correct?
That's
Yeah.
why, like, to go back to the question, our vehicles with plows, when it's all hands on deck when we get snow and we get a lot of it. So we would be on the street helping out residents, doing what we can to get those areas cleared.
Yeah, I appreciate the level of detail that's in this analysis, because one of the things that I think, that I know that the board talks about every time we're going to acquire property or we have a discussion on whether we're going to get rid of property or whatever, is the ongoing maintenance costs of acquiring, holding property on our books. We have to maintain those properties, and there is ongoing costs, and we have certain liabilities there as well, you know, responsibilities as far as liability is concerned. So I really do appreciate this, because I think it does. It provides transparency to the board as well as to the public of what some of those ongoing costs are, and this is one of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? A motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Clerk Berry, to approve item 10F. Clerk Berry.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink. Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 10G.
Item 10G is Department of Public Services is requesting the Township Board to approve the purchase of 25 3/4-inch T10 meters and 75 R900 radio read devices for a total cost of $17,757.25.
Support.
Motion by Trustee DeBink, supported by Trustee Joseph. Mr. O'Connor?
Good evening. This item is to purchase meters and R900s for current development that's happening. It was budgeted in the overall budget, but we're coming forward because the amount exceeds $5,000.
Questions from the board? Clerk Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Mitch, just for the board's information as well as for the public's, what sorts of inventory controls do you employ when it comes to this type of inventory?
We project based off the site plans that come through. If a site plan is approved for a residential development, it takes about a year for engineering and approvals before it gets constructed. But we will know when the site plan is approved, if it's 80 units, you know, we'll forecast 81-inch meters.
But as far as once this is in stock, if you will, and kept in-house, do you maintain, is this done with spreadsheets, or do you have a system, an inventory control system, if you could just touch on that?
We do, it's an Excel spreadsheet, and we have the current stock, and then we put the projections on there to see what we need 2-inch meters or 1.5-inch meters, or it's kind of a simple process, but it does work.
Thank you.
Motion by Trustee DeMink, supported by Trustee Joseph, to approve item 10G. Clerk Berry.
Trustee DeMink. Aye. Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 11, addendums, there are none. Item 12, public comments. There is a 3-minute time limit. Again, for public comments, if you would state your name, just so we can keep track, not required. The mic is open.
Christopher Pierrick, Chesterfield Township. On the December 12th Township Board meeting, there was a motion by Trustee Demink and supported by Treasurer Elliott to install a crosswalk sign, warning sign, over at Jefferson and Hooker. I see some work has been done there. I see 2 signs on the side of the road, one facing each way with buttons. I don't see anything overhead, anything that's going to flash, anything that's going to illuminate the roadway. Is that project completed? And is that what our $50,000 bought? Thank you.
I, Michelle Merriweather, citizen of Chesterfield Township, retired Chief Operations Officer, Fortune 100 with business law specialty, certified parliamentarian and former investigator for the Michigan Department of Civil Rights with a focus on public service, public servants, and First Amendment cases, member of protected class Black and a woman under the U.S. Constitution, engaged in the protected activity of free speech against government in 2022, and experienced the adverse actions of public harassment, racial intimidation, excessive force, and retaliation from David Joseph, an elected official and township representative, in an effort to change the outcome of the 2024 election by government interference during protected government proceedings. Campaigning may allow for fabrications by Mr. Joseph outside this room, but in this room and on its grounds, he is a representative of government and I am a citizen, which prevail according to the Constitution, Michigan Township Board Association, the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, the Office of the Attorney General, Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, Michigan Campaign Finance Law, and the American Civil Liberties Union. On 8/27 and 9/10, my expression was mocked through fabricated context, narratives on intent, and quotes. Mr. Joseph using passive-aggressive subtext, which does not apply during protected activities by protected citizens, fabricated statements such as indicated, she said. So Chesterfield Township police rookies have tricky trigger fingers towards members of the Black community. I know some Chesterfield police officers upset by your comments. Clear line of causal connect and nexus to cause retaliation by misabuse of power and his relationships with the police department to intimidate protected classes. After the meeting, Mr. Joseph forcibly interrupted a private meeting between myself and another citizen to share photocopies of my statement after sharing them in this room, providing false narratives using words such as racist, racism, and alluding to the fact his influence with the police could cause harm to me and my family. I asked him to leave, and feeling unsafe and threatened, I left and immediately went to the police station. Mr. Joseph has also in the past been an uninvited guest by coming to my home uninvited, which has also caused an air of racial intimidation. When this time is used also at the end of township meetings by Mr. Joseph, using the bylaws against individuals who dissent against government, he has mocked and ridiculed, which are violations of my civil laws in the Civil Rights Act of 1964. All legal elementals under the civil rights law for racial intimidation, retaliation, and the adverse actions of public harassment, excessive force, have been met. The elemental to support concerns of election interference by township representatives, which initiates concern for ballots and votes, have been met. All supported by extensive Chesterfield video library, audio, eyewitness statements, and documentation. I am now fearful of speaking out anymore as a member of a Black and a woman of a protected class in this meeting. I am fearful of attending this meeting due to concerns and inciting of violence against me and his attempts to invoke the police.
Got to cut you off there.
We request his removal from the Chesterfield Township Police as a liaison and the Friends of Chesterfield. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chesterfield Township, John Speaka, we are 42 days out from a major election. Democracy is not a constitutional right. It's an experiment, and we must do everything that we can to protect democracy and our freedoms. I asked the residents, do you want 4 more years of chaos? Do you want 4 more years of your tax dollars being wasted? And most of all, do you want 4 more years of this? I know I don't. We have a cowardly, weak, and small a group of elected officials that are followers on this majority board. And those elected officials, in my opinion, are Kathy Elliott, Trustee Vosberg, and Trustee DeMink. These individuals feed off the scraps of Brad Kersten. These individuals put themselves, not the residents, put themselves, not the residents. Just look at their voting record. All 3 of them. Brad Kersten, in my opinion, is an autocrat. He runs these meetings like an autocrat. It's a system of government by where one person with absolute power, these 4 individuals have taken away your freedoms to speak on every agenda item after the item is discussed. Your freedom, your democracy in this boardroom. Let's start electing good people with a moral compass that care about the residents and listen to the residents' wants and needs. We're all tired of getting lip service and no results in this township, and Brad Kersten's the prime example of that. The only guardrails that we have left is the election coming up. As you can see, we need to vote for individuals, especially in the trustees race, that are going to represent us. Those are the only guardrails. This board, in my opinion, is out of control. It's been out of control. Nothing's changed. So, and I'm not talking about the whole board. I'm talking about the majority board on my right-hand side that I always talk about. So, again, the residents, you have to do your due diligence, and you have to, the only way to stop him, he's got 2 votes already. You got to stop him on the last 2 votes. And if that requires you to vote for Dems, then you got to do it. So, and one of them that I recommend is Jim Latch. So, the other one that I recommend is John Grievous, and I'm going to throw my support behind Hank Anderson and David Joseph. Those are the only guardrails left, guys. Whether you like it or not, that's it. So, if he gets his 2 votes, this chaos and BS will continue. So, thank you.
James Locke. After all that, I feel like what I want to say really means nothing. Earlier tonight, you voted on the abatement agreement for the business. And in the past, that has been pretty much procedure. I mean, it's enacted in 1974, and in 1974, we had a lot of companies leaving this country and that and going elsewhere to do business. And this act was to help get companies to stay here, do business here and that. Now, that's 50 years ago. That's half a century. Things have changed. Companies are doing well. Companies have money in their pocket. They're, you can look at the stock market. You can see it. Things are well right now. So, it might be about time to start thinking to quit giving all this tax breaks to everybody. All these businesses that come in for chicken, whatever, we don't need to keep changing our codes that we have, because everyone wants, let me do this, change this, change that. We're bleeding money here. This is just a small township. We're a little township. We're not a city. We don't have a big budget. I mean, in this tax abatement, we're giving as much money as the state of Michigan has given them to do business here. And we're nowhere near making the money that the state of Michigan is. Okay? I'm just asking, start thinking about the citizens of this little township, what it's costing us and what it's going to cost us in the future, and our kids in the future. We're piling up debt that we can't pay. I mean, you can change whoever you want on this board, but I guarantee you, it's going to be 20 years or longer before all this debt is paid. You need to start considering what you're doing. Thank you.
Further comments? Any further public comments? Any further public comments? Bring it back up to the board. Oh.
Rich Brokart, Chesterfield Township. I love these meetings. I love the passion that people bring to these meetings. Sitting up there is not easy. Your job is very difficult. When someone's yelling at you, calling you names, it's not easy to sit down and take it. My mom told me a long time ago, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything. Well, it's hard, because sometimes these are tough messages. But I'm going to go around the room real quick. Mr. Joseph, you paid me respect last year. I had an issue with this board. You showed up at one of our commission meetings, our planning meetings. You expressed your opinion. You did it very well. I learned something that night. Thank you for that. Mr. Anderson, I know you're friends with Mr. Joseph. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, but you know what they say, a friend of a friend is my friend. Miss Berry, at Christmas, my brother-in-law and I went to the Christmas tree lighting. You may not remember this. You greeted us with a smile. You showed us where the hot coffee was, and you were kind. I appreciate that. Mr. Kersten, you know I'm a coffee guy. My first day, I'm looking for a coffee machine in this building. I had come in from Grand Rapids. It was a 14-hour day for me, and I was going to sit up there. You brought me into your office, and you gave me a cup of coffee. That's kindness, and I appreciate that as well. Mr. Siebert, you're my brother from Austin. I don't need to say another word. Ms. Vosberg, you were the first one to congratulate me when I joined the Planning Commission, the very first one. You came up to me with a smile and a warm handshake. I felt welcome, and I appreciate that. Brian, I've known you for 2 decades. You've taken some very unjust criticism over the years. I've sat next to you and listened to it. I sat here tonight and listened to it again. Stay strong, you're a good man. I know you've worked a majority of your life for Chesterfield Township. I know your commitment and your love for this organization and this township. You're a good man. Keep the faith. That's all I have to say.
Any further comments?
Wendy Jones, Shamrock Street, Jefferson, or Chesterfield. I know all of you and have for many years. And what the last gentleman got up here and said, he couldn't have said it better. Every one of you takes so much criticism when you go up there, and it's not an easy job. But yet you've all sat on that seat for so many years, and we don't always agree. We don't have to always agree, but you've served us well. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Any further comments? Any further comments? I'll bring it back up to the board. Board comments. Trustee Anderson, let's start with you tonight.
It's like the beginning of the alphabet. I'm going to say something. I'm not going to just say about 2.5 weeks we have an open house at the fire department, October 13th, 12 to 3 p.m. over on Station 3, Gratiot and Baker Road. We'll talk about that more later, all activities. Thank you.
Trustee Anderson, or Joseph, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I was writing things down as one of the speakers was presenting tonight, and I had every intention of really just providing both barrels in response to the nonsense. And Mr. Brokart, I appreciate your comments. They came very, very timely. I did come to your planning meeting, and I remember the meeting you're talking about, but I also came to your planning meeting and had some not so nice things to say. And I appreciate you not mentioning that, because you're a guy that every time I see you on the board representing the Planning Commission, you always look for the positives in all of the petitioners that come before you, all the elected officials that come before you, and you're just a true gentleman. I appreciate your comments tonight. I do have to set the record straight on a couple of issues that I could see, friends of mine and supporters in the front row wondering what was I doing at her house and what was the attack. And so I'd like to clarify. I'm a simple guy. I live in a very small house. I'm a humble person. I work tirelessly on behalf of children in this county. I have for 30 years. And my biggest, I don't know if it's an attribute or a weakness, you decide when you go to the polls, but I got involved in politics because our police department was on the ropes. 12 years ago, we had faced a couple of failed villages. There were massive layoffs planned, and I got along, along with Trustee Anderson and Clerk Berry, we were focused on the police department and rescuing our police department. I've been a very, very strong advocate for the police department, and about 10 years ago, we formed with some friends, the Friends of Chesterfield Police, and they have given great service to the community and been great advocates for our township police department. Several years ago, the individual that came to the podium took issue with an ordinance that we were proposing. It was attempted to be a race issue, that somehow our ordinance was attacking people of color. I stood strongly for the police department that were being impugned that night, and I said, this is not a color issue. Our board is color blind. All of our residents are represented in the total. We don't see, we have differences, but we just really do not see color, and we would never pass an ordinance to attack people of color. That was not, that did not sit well, and it became a racial issue. An email came to the board, and a few weeks ago, a few board meetings ago, that same individual came forward in an election year talking about the police again. And I was a little bit frustrated with some earlier comments, and I referenced them. I've never gone to anybody's house unsolicited more than once. The incident that she's talking about, I was actually campaigning in her neighborhood. She was not on my walk list, but I noticed from the signs and the banners that if I could, Mr. Supervisor, get the opportunity to respond to this. The banner indicating that she lived there, I approached the gentleman in the front yard who later turned out to be her husband. I left my card and I wished her well in the election. She did not come out to meet me. He indicated she was busy. I left. That was the one and only time I've ever been to that individual's house. The attacks and the civil rights and all of that, if there is a case, I will participate willingly with any investigation to talk about my behavior and what I do and what I don't do. I will not be in a room by myself or any way with that individual for fear that I will be painted in some way that I'm not. The incident that she was talking about occurred 2 weeks ago. The resident that she spoke of was my colleague. It was Treasurer Elliott. And all I simply did was hand to her, as I will hand to you her own words, the email that she wrote describing her concerns about our police department. They were despicable then, they are despicable now. Independent of her race and independent of her gender, I stand by my support of the police department. I have since I ran for office. And with Mr. Brokart's advice, and in the words of our former First Lady, Melania Trump, who said, when they go low, we go high, I will end my comments. Thank you.
Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I would just like to acknowledge Boy Scout Isaac Jarosz, who's been working on the log cabin at the Historical Village. He was able to, they plugged up a bunch of holes made by bugs and birds and sealed the entire building, and they're doing some other repair to railings and things. He'll be finishing up the project probably in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Trustee Domingue.
Thank you, Mr. Brokart and Mrs. Jones, for the comments, to all the board members. Also, Mr. Locke, in regards to that, yeah, Hooker and Jefferson, they do have the lights up. I'll defer to the supervisor if there's going to be an overhead on that. He would know better than I do, sir. Thank you.
Clerk Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. You know, every election cycle when I train hundreds of election inspectors to serve us in our elections, one of the things that I train them on is that we are to demonstrate kindness, courtesy, and respect to everyone, their co-workers, all of our folks that come in to vote that day. Over and above everything else, if you don't have that, then everything else becomes inconsequential. And as a woman of faith, I pray every day. I study scripture every morning, and I've been praying for that, Mr. Brokart. I've been praying for someone to start what you started tonight. I want to thank you for that, because I've been praying for it. Because I've been in this business a very long time, been on this board 12 years, been in politics for over 25. And I've seen a lot of ugly things. And so been praying on a consistent daily basis. You know, sometimes we wonder if God hears us. And you confirmed for me tonight that he hears us. And I can only hope that what you started catches on like a brush fire, and we see more and more of that. Thank you, Mrs. Jones, for following up on that. We've had our differences even run against each other over the years, but I really do appreciate that, and I think what you started is an example for everyone. I always try to conduct myself that way, always have, regardless of the vicious attacks, whether they come inside this boardroom or outside this boardroom. I've always felt that when we're sitting here, we are doing the people's work. We are doing your business, not our own personal vindictive business. That's just been my personal opinion. I want to thank you for that. I can't thank you enough. One last thing in my last minute on absentee ballots. For those of you who vote by absentee ballot, please make sure you do not take off that stub, those stubbed ballots. That stub needs to remain on those ballots. If we receive your absentee ballot without that stub on it, once you put it inside that envelope, those envelopes are not opened until we begin tabulating those ballots. But once we open that envelope, and we see that that ballot stub is missing, we must reject your ballot. State law requires us to do that, and then your vote won't count. So please make sure you do not remove that stub. If it falls off while it's in the envelope, we can accept that, but we cannot accept that ballot if that stub is missing. So please, please make sure you do not remove that stub when you are sending back your absentee ballot. Also, please make sure that you include it in your secrecy sleeve. Sometimes we'll get ballots back and the ballot is exposed because that secrecy sleeve that we give you, that ballot needs to go in that secrecy sleeve when you send it back to us. Last and probably the most important, please make sure you sign those absentee ballot envelopes when they come back to us. If there is no signature, if your signature varies greatly from what we have on file for you, you're going to get a letter and probably a phone call from us to remedy that. You have a much shorter time to do that now than you have in the past, so please protect your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brokart. You set the tone tonight, including me. I, like Trustee Joseph, was taking notes and was ready to unload, but I'm going to change. The only thing I have to say is, Mr. Locke, what I would suggest that you do to go to our website, look at our financial statements and documents, and both are there, including the last audit report. This township is not bleeding money. This township is very financially sound and stable, and all major funds, including public safety, are in the positive balances and will continue to grow and do so. I appreciate, and I'm really not even me, understanding Gestamp's choosing Chesterfield Township to put their plant here is a win for Chesterfield Township. It is not a loss and it is not a detriment to this community. The land that they built on was vacant. What they brought to this township over the course of 12 years is nothing but a pure win, along with 390 jobs. And that offsets the Kroger Distribution Center, which is closing October 3rd on 23 Mile Road. So we have replaced them with Gestamp and not only doubled our job capacity here in Chesterfield Township, but also raised the salary for individuals that do get selected to work there. Again, Mr. Brokart, I met you 3 years ago. You amazed me then, and I tell everybody on this board that when I watch you work and listen to you, I learn, and I wish I had your disposition. And what you did tonight is the reason why people look up to you. So thank you. The last thing I got to say is on Thursday, September 26th at 5 o'clock at night till 6:30, there is a Veterans Home annual volunteer appreciation celebration at the Veterans Home on Sugarbush. I would like to invite all my colleagues there. We are going to be recognizing several of their volunteers, along with several of their residents that appreciate being recognized. And if you ever had a chance to just visit and stop in there, it's a very comfortable place where our veterans are residing. So everyone is welcome. Make sure that we get the invite out to you. And with that being said, there is no closed session tonight. I will make a motion to adjourn. Supervisor Kersten makes a motion, supported by Trustee Vosberg. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned, 8:30.